We're going to pick up on that point with France 24's Claire Paccalin, who's at Paris Central Courts. Claire, you just heard attorney Samia Maktouf saying the sentence is too lenient for her. Your reaction there?
Well, certainly in the courtroom, the ruling was seen as very severe. The judge handed down sentences which were longer than what the prosecution had asked for. I'll just run them for you through them. Two men found guilty for complicity in a terrorist act. That's a very serious crime. Both were given 16-year prison sentences. Azim Ipsakov, who was found guilty of having helped the killer, Abdullah Onzorov, get hold of the weapons, and Naim Bedaoud, also given a 16-year prison sentence, found guilty of having helped the killer get hold of the weapons and even driving him to the town where he waited for Samuel Paty outside the school where he taught, and he beheaded him in the streets. That was Abdullah Onzorov, the killer, who was killed by police not long after. The man who drove him to the site of the crime, Naim Bedaoud, given 16 years in prison this evening. Two other men found guilty of a criminal terrorist conspiracy. Now, Brahim Shina, 13 years in prison he was given. Now, he is the father whose daughter lied to him. She told him that Samuel Paty had discriminated against her in class because she was Muslim. She was not actually in class that day, but Brahim Shina, her father, went online and launched an online hate campaign against the teacher. Also, Abdel Hakim Sefoui, 15 years. He was told by the judge that he played an essential role in the killing of Samuel Paty because he contributed to that online hate campaign. And four others given sentences of between 3 and 5 years, partially suspended for having shown emotional support online to the killer before he carried out his act. Now, they all have 10 days to appeal, and I need to stress that already one of them, Abdel Hakim Sefoui, said actually just after the sentence was handed down, he addressed the courtroom saying that he was going to appeal. Certainly the defense lawyers in this case have been coming out and speaking to the press behind me. As you can see, there are lots of journalists here tonight trying to get the reactions of the lawyers, and the lawyers on the defense side are very, very unhappy with this ruling. They are saying that their clients have nothing to do with terrorism, they do not have terrorist links, and that we are definitely expecting at least some of those convicted this evening to appeal.
Claire, the gruesome beheading of Samuel Paty, it came at the end of a string of terror attacks. We're soon going to have the 10th anniversary of the Charlie Hebdo attacks coming up. And when it happened, you can't stress enough how much it shook France to its core.
Certainly, and the judge reminded the courtroom of that this evening, saying that it was an absolute barbaric act, that it was an attack on the values of the French Republic. And this certainly feels like a message is being sent out now to anyone considering and getting involved in an online hate campaign. Well, there could be serious consequences. It could end in the death of someone, the killing of somebody. It could also end in heavy, long prison sentences. I must tell you that the emotion in the courtroom was running high as those sentences were read out. The family members of those convicted, some of them crying, some of them shouting out, one of them even saying to the judge, "You're lying about my father." So certainly emotions running high. But when we look at the civil parties, so those are family members, people who are close to Samuel Paty. Well, one of their lawyers has come out saying that he feels and his clients feel that the length of the sentences are adequate and in line with the seriousness of this crime. The civil parties had been disappointed with what the prosecution had asked for earlier on in the week. The judge has given out longer sentences than what the prosecution had asked for, and that certainly is something which has been welcomed by friends and family of Samuel Paty. One of the family's lawyers also said that Samuel Paty's 9-year-old son, who was 5 when his father was murdered in the street, with lawyers saying that the 9-year-old boy understood what had happened in court. He understood that justice had been served for his father, but he also understood that we are expecting an appeal.
Poignant testimony there, poignant accounts in the courtroom. Claire, this verdict coming in on the Friday before Christmas, and just as the verdict was coming in, the attack that's happened in neighboring Germany, where it now is being qualified most probably as an attack, this car driving into a Christmas market. A reminder again of this, that we're in this, we're back to what we thought was something of the past.
Well, certainly when you look back 4 years ago to the killing of Samuel Paty, it did spark outrage and a lot of emotion here in France. A school teacher who had dedicated his working life to helping young people, to teaching them, to getting them to think for themselves, had been beheaded in the streets not far from the school where he taught. There was a memorial service held for him at the Pantheon. The president of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, was there. Samuel Paty's coffin was carried out to the sounds of U2's One Love, and he was certainly remembered by friends and family as a very generous man, as a kind man who loved his job. He loved talking to young people, getting them to think for themselves, and certainly his murder in October 4 years ago was really something that sent shockwaves through France.
Claire Paccalin reporting that we're going to have at least one appeal among those sentences that run as high as 16 years in the verdict of the 8 accomplices, all found guilty in the gruesome 2020 beheading of a social studies teacher outside his middle school in the Paris area. Claire Paccalin reporting from Paris Central Courts.